So our theme this month is abundance and gratitude, and today it is your fortune begins in consciousness. And this is wonderful because really that's what this center is about, is consciousness. We've been going for about over 4 years now. We started in September 2013. And there's three main reasons that I see the purpose for this community, which is waking up, to express, and to connect. So this month I'm going to talk about all three of those, and today it's waking up. And I would say waking up has been actually my primary goal, my primary intention, and my own passion. And what that means is it's to wake up to the truth of who and what we really are. That it's one thing to read a book or to say, yes, I believe I'm one with God, or I am one with all beings. It's a whole other thing to actually become that. And that takes a lot of releasing all the blocks, as Emerson would say, get our bloated nothingness out of the way so the divine can pour itself through us and as us, so that we get to be these wonderful vehicles and that we can actually show up in life not from a small, limited human perception, but open up and show up in life as a vehicle for this divine, infinite love intelligence to speak through us, to act through us, to show up just in presence as us. And that's the great delight of this journey, is to be able to do that process of waking up with other people. The reason why so abundance, our fortune, our consciousness, as Joel said in the reading today, that was Joel Goldsmith, talks about that it all starts in consciousness. Supply, our abundance, our prosperity, all the good that we want comes from the invisible. So what we've been doing this whole time in our community and waking up to the truth of who we are, once we start really developing a deep connection and profound connection with our divine self, that is the part of us that will always last, that is never hurt, harmed, or endangered, that never dies, that is eternal and everlasting. The more we connect with that and are committed to knowing that, and then we have issues of supply, we can't pay the bills, we have trouble with our taxes, whatever the issues are, we have that place where it is the source. We've now made that connection, so everything comes from this connection, which is why it's of the most primary importance. And why, for me, that's the most important part of what we do in our community, is about waking up. But there's another aspect to this invisible piece that we also have to be conscious of. I'm sure most of you by now, and if you've been on the spiritual journey, you've heard of something called spiritual bypass. And what that means, when we get so, like, everything's good, everything's fine, God's always good, life is good, I'm good, that we don't own the parts of ourselves that don't feel good. That we feel sad, or we feel scared, or we feel mean, or we feel ugly, or we feel jealous, or whatever those angry, sad, I'm just thinking sort of negative emotions, and we just sort of push those away. So we talk about, and I've talked about before, is part of the healing is owning that. We have to own those things we push away, because we can't heal what we don't own. We can't heal what we don't feel. But even as that is true of us individually, one of the things we also have to recognize, and that's, again, I'm going back to the Me Too, it's not a campaign, movement, I guess, that's been happening, is that there's a strong collective unconscious, a belief system that we all are participating in, and it's not necessarily always visible. Sometimes it is visible. So, and I'm talking about this in terms of abundance and your fortune and your good. We have to become conscious of who we are and why we come into a community supports us, because there's so much in the external world that's saying, we're limited, you're not good enough. Every advertisement is based on you're not good enough, so you have to get my product to be good enough. That's the underlying selling point of most things, which is you need this in order to be more whole, which is you need less. Actually, we need less things to know our wholeness. So, but that's overt. We can see that. We can catch it when someone says that. And what I say, I don't know how you handle it. There's different things. I say cancel, cancel. I know it's sort of simple, but when people start telling me, I don't say it out loud, but start telling me their beliefs about something, in my head, I go, cancel, cancel. I don't want to take that in. I don't want to take in what they're saying to me. When I broke my foot and I was on a scooter, I had a big cast in a scooter, the amount of horror stories that I heard, and I was saying cancel, cancel a lot. There was a minister, and I loved what he said. He goes, one of the things we'll say, he says, we've heard is just you wait. And I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, well, if you forget something and someone older will say, well, just you wait till you're my age. Or it costs a lot of money for Julian to play sports. Oh, just you wait until he has got to go to college. We do that to people. Just you wait. I have the broken foot. Well, just you wait. It could get worse. So we have these things that people say to us, and we may say to other people. That's perpetuating this consciousness of limitation, of my experience is going to be your future. So this has been my experience, and I'm about to tell you, just to wait, and you're going to have the same limiting experience I had. And so we have to become conscious of that. We have to be awake to that. And then there's this whole underlying that we can't see, this collective unconsciousness, these belief systems, because I've been thinking about this, the Me Too campaign, and it's more for me, just, I think why it draws me in so much is because what it's really bringing home to me is how secondary citizen the feminine world has been. That women in general just have not had the same value. Alec Baldwin just said something recently. He says, yeah, I've been guilty of that. He said, just not really taking women's opinions seriously or overlooking them. And he said, it's just, I'm used to men being in charge, and that's how I'm working on being conscious. I don't think that's right. And there's a lot of people who criticize that. I don't want to get into that. But I just thought it was an interesting point. Men are in charge. That's the history. That's what we're used to. And my point with that is there's no one to blame. We've all been part of this. This has been going on for thousands of years. And I feel like I don't want us to become a blaming culture. We're always, I'm the victim, and who am I going to blame for my oppression? That is not a way to freedom. We become conscious of something, and we choose to make a difference in our life and say, we're going to stand for who we are. And so our job is to stay conscious of what's being said over the tongue and underneath the tongue, that which we can't see, but we start intuiting. We start feeling like this isn't right, this doesn't make sense. I might not be able to rationally say it or explain it in that moment, but intuitively, I feel like there's something off. And that happens more readily when we're in tune with spirit. When we're in tune with that presence that always loves itself, that always respects itself, that always knows it's whole, perfect, and complete, that always knows its own power, that never has to limit its power to make anyone else feel better, or that its good is dependent on anybody else, on any secondary causation. We are all secondary causations. Spirit, the invisible, is primary causation. It's first cause. So the more we stay connected with that first cause and not get caught up in secondary causation, the freer we're going to be, the more abundant our good is going to be, showing up in grace and in ease. So we have this incredible work cut out for us. And that's what I love about this teaching, because though it is a collective mass system, the way we wake up is as individuals. And sometimes I think people aren't always drawn to this path because it really demands a lot of personal responsibility. You could all be doing your work, but I have to do my work. I can't lean on your work. If I'm going to wake up, I have to do the work. I have to become conscious of my words. I have to be conscious of how I'm showing up in that meeting with my boss or with my colleagues or with my clients. I have to show up. I have to do what is my consciousness in my family? What am I saying to my spouse, to my children, to my sisters, to my parents? Who am I in all of these situations? Where is my alignment? Is with this collective belief system, or am I aligning with the whole perfect and complete being of power and light and joy and freedom and abundance, which is everywhere in, through, and as all creation? We get to stand in that. We get to be that. And that's why we continue to do the spiritual practices and recognize that a community like this is so, so important, because there's so much telling us not to believe that we are powerful, that we are whole, that we are complete, that we are beautiful beings of light, and miracles work through us when we open to the infinite love intelligence of the universe. So much of what we say here on a Sunday morning or in classes, we go out into the community and we'd be sort of looked at funny, maybe even made fun of. Yesterday I watched, Jack, Julie, and I saw Thor. And I hope I'm not giving any spoiler alerts, but there's a villain, and the good guys win. If that ruined it for you, I'm sorry. So we've seen so many action movies, and I I mean, I like Thor. I like the past Thors, but I've seen them so. I mean, I have brothers. I watched action movies growing up. Boyfriends. I'm like, I'm here with action movies. But it was fun. It was a really good movie, and there was two things that I really liked about it. One is Thor kept saying who he was. So I'm Thor, the god of thunder, and nobody had any reaction to it. They're like, okay, that's nice. Or no one deferred to him. No one like, oh no. But what was interesting, it never fazed him. Like people's response to him did not faze him. He was so clear who he was. And I thought that's what we need to be doing. Not necessarily out loud. At your work life, they might look at you funny. But always, always inside. Saying, this is who I am. So when I'm confronted with circumstances, who am I really? Who am I really in this moment? I am the divine being of light and truth and wisdom. I am one with God. I completely surrender myself to the infinite power and love intelligence of this universe, and I allow it to move through and as me in this conversation, in what needs to be done. I just continue to get my bloated nothingness out of the way and say yes to that divine presence. I know who I am. I am a unique expression of pure spirit. If we said that to ourselves as clearly as Thor said that about himself all of the times, we'd beat all the villains too. And the reason why we do the secret, sacred, and silent is because looking at the reactions to him, some people made fun of him, other people, mostly there was no reaction whatsoever, but it never fazed him. But most of us will get fazed. And that's why they teach to just keep it within, because unless you're ready, if you're still new at it and you say it and people start making fun of you or challenging you, you can start developing skepticism. Well, maybe that is, I shouldn't say, maybe that's not true. Or you're in your position of now I got to defend it, and I got to defend. He never defended that either. He didn't say why he was this. This is just who he was. He was so clear about it. We don't want to say it out loud until we're so clear that we know that regardless of what the response is outside, externally, it won't move me. I know who I am. And when we get to that place of knowing, then it is good to say it out loud. Then it is a startling statement, although it's so startling that people tend to ignore it. The other thing that I really loved in this Thor movie, and I was telling Jack and Julian why I liked it, because I don't like being afraid. I stopped going to horror movies years ago. Why would anyone enjoy being afraid? But I also realized after going to all these action movies, I don't like that feeling of tension. Just like, you know how it's going to end, and I still get all caught up in it and tense. What I loved about this, the way Chris Hemsworth plays Thor, and I don't know if, I haven't paid attention in previous movies if that's how he plays it, because he knew who he was, there was a sense, for me anyway, so the whole movie is, I got this. I never felt in any moment that character of Thor was really, truly, genuinely threatened by the evil villain. There was just a sense of, I'm gonna go in there and make this all better. And I thought, isn't that a great way to live life? To know when we are so aligned with the divine presence within us, that no matter how bad evil that villainous experience is in our life, that circumstance, and for everyone it might be different. It might be something at work, it might be bills, it might be relationships, it might be whatever that is, that sense of lack in our life. And just know that I know who I am, and so everything is going to work out fine. Just to walk through life knowing it's going to be okay because I know who I am. And to me, that's what this Your Fortune starts and begins in your consciousness. When we know who we are, we just start showing up in life calm, clear, open, willing to still participate. He didn't not participate. He wasn't so clear that he's like, I don't even have to fight. He fully engaged, but he had a very strong sense of how it was going to end before it started. That something, even when it looked all was lost, something was going to show up because he so strongly believed in the goodness of who he was and what life was. And to me, this is the abundance consciousness. What we have to recognize, for those of you who are new, the abundance consciousness is that the divine is infinite. It has no beginning. It has no end. That it is infinite. And therefore, it is infinite always, already. It doesn't come and it doesn't go. Abundance of good is always available to us. That's living in the today's manna, as Joel Goldsmith said in the reading today, and he's referring to the Bible and Moses, not living on yesterday's manna, on yesterday's supply from the divine presence, not holding on for tomorrow, but so completely trusting that that infinite supply is in, through, and as us in every single moment. And we just trust in that moment after moment and don't have to hold on and attach. Because even the really wealthy people who are holding on and hoarding money, that's coming from lack. They're afraid they're going to lose the money. So they're still imprisoned, but in a different way. And then the people who don't have money. And what the shift is, it's almost like Spirit really wants us to wake up. Don't you ever get that feeling like everything is conspiring for us to wake up? If you want to wake up around supply, around your good, about infinite nature, there's only one way to do that, to wake up to who you really are. There's no place out there to turn. You can get all the money in your world, but that could be taken away. There's only one place the infinite supply is going to come from. Joel Goldsmith, can't remember if I've told this story before or not, he started off with these principles, learned them, law of circulation, and he said his prosperity would come and go. This is financial prosperity. And he was doing healing work, and he'd bill his clients, and sometimes they pay, and sometimes they didn't pay. When they paid, he was flowing, and then when they didn't pay, he'd be struggling. And then he had this moment, this awareness, which is what this whole book that he wrote, Infinite Supply, is about, which was that God was the source of everything in his life, all the supply. So he stopped billing his clients. He said, they're not my source. Those are people. That's secondary causation. My only source is Spirit. So he stopped billing. He stopped charging everybody. He just said, God is my source. And from that moment on, the flow was just unending, and he just lived a very affluent and prosperous life effortlessly. Where we put our attention on expands, increases. Where our attention goes, energy flows. I like that one because I like the energy. Where our attention goes, energy flows. Those who have, more shall be given. To those who have not, more shall be taken away. That says in the Bible. That sounds so harsh. But it's not. All it is, if you feel like you have, where your attention goes, energy flows. If my focus is on what I have, and that's where my energy is flowing and what I have, guess what? Those who have, more shall be given. Because I have, I'm focusing on what I have. If I'm focusing on what I don't have, and I'm constantly trying to process what I don't have, and what's missing and what's lacking, where our attention goes, energy flows. Then we start having less and less, because that's where our energy is going. I don't have. Thor, throughout his movie, I love that Thor's my movie. I am Thor, God of thunder. He continued to claim who he was. Where our attention goes, energy flows. Where is your attention going? So the invitation this week, man, I'm doing good on time, all right. The invitation this week is to focus on what you have. Where your attention goes, energy flows. At the same time, I also want you to take note of all the times you hear or feel lack. And it's amazing when we go out into the world how much there is. Whether it's on the news, whether it's just a comment, just you wait. Just little simple things that we hear, or we might say ourselves. Catch it. See if we can start catching those moments of lack. I love, one of my teachers said, there's a universal false belief that of not enough. It shows up in many ways. Money, power, prosperity, happiness, joy, whatever it is. So we'll see it. We'll see that belief of duality. Notice it, and in the midst of it, I have. What do I have in the midst of this situation? Anything that's trying to convince me that I don't have, I want you to turn it around in that moment. As soon as you notice it, turn it around. What do I have? What do I have? What do I have? Who am I? I am the life of God. I am one with the infinite supply. I'm not missing anything. If anyone's trying to convince me I don't have, I do have. I am one with the infinite that is the source of all life. I have everything here within me. Continue to work on that. Is that a deal? That we'll start working on just always what I have. So when you notice anyone outside or inside telling you don't have, I have. For me, the glitch is taxes. I don't know, for some reason I really constrict around taxes. So I feel, and so I have to do the work. I feel like suffering around taxes. Oh no, what do I have? I have the infinite. My father was a tax lawyer, so everything worked out so flowingly until he stopped doing my taxes. So I'm very conscious of it, I guess, and I just go, And so, no, I have my Father's consciousness within me. The Father, I am the child of the Mother, Father, God of heaven that is the source of all life. All my good is right here. I have. Because if I continually focus on what I don't have, it's just going to be a painful experience day after day. I have. Then there's one last thing for this homework assignment, and I think it's the greatest leap into abundance. Not only do I have, but everybody else has. I think what happened in our organization and in our philosophy is we really started doing all this individual work to the point where almost it became isolationist. Like, as long as I had my good. And I don't think Ernest Holmes was like that, who's the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. In fact, in almost all of his 365, he then goes on to talk about everybody has that. And I think that's such an essential step. For me, that was a hard one, though, because I did grow up with financial good, and I saw that there was a lot of people that didn't. And so I started looking around the world, well, where is it where everybody has financial good? And I couldn't come up with an image in my head. Like, what would that actually really feel and look like if everybody was extravagantly abundant? Like, there was just no issue of enough. And I couldn't come up with an image in my head, so that was really troubling to me. Like, I would pray for everyone's abundance, but I'm like, what would that look like? And then I realized, oh, heaven on earth. What does heaven look like? And I started thinking about all this. I don't know if any of you, I know a lot of you have read near-death experiences, what the other side of the veil is like. I started referencing all these other sides of the veil, what the energy, astral, subtle body world looks like, what heaven looks like. And that is no lack. All the images, all the things of description, everybody has more than enough. Everybody, not just a few people. There's no separation. Everyone's playing in the light. They're dancing. They're creating. They're discovering all these new energies and new things. But limitation is not a problem. In fact, creating with your mind instantly, it's like in your dreams. The heaven is very much like our dreams. We can create instantly. So there's no limitation. And so that's what I started using as when I start praying for everybody's abundance, I needed some sense of what that would feel like. And so that's what I use now when I pray for everybody's abundance. That's what it would feel like if we were all in this infinite goodness where nobody was lacking anything. So when we start knowing what I have, my second invitation to you is then claim what I have everybody else has. That it's not just me, it's everyone in this community. And it might be too hard to start with the whole planet. So start with your family. Everyone in my family has this. Everyone in my workplace have this. My employers have all this good. My clients have all this good. People in my lighthouse community, this beautiful, glorious community, they have everything they want. So really start with your communities as everybody has their good. Everyone's abundant. Everyone is already there. The source of God is that community, is this presence of power of pure spirit. So I give thanks that we get to do this and play with this together. Are you all going to try this with me? Because we're going to be doing this all month long. So I'd love to get feedback. Here, I might check in at the end of talks in the future when I don't have a time limit. And so I just want to say the beauty of a community for me like this. I was talking about secret, sacred, and silent. In your work life, I don't know, some people's families, yes and no, but here definitely you can absolutely speak what's true for yourself and for everybody. You can go up to somebody and say, I know you are divinely supported and guided and protected in every single way. I know all your needs are met because all my needs are met from the supply. We have the same source, and that's okay here. We can really support each other, not just in the invisible, but in the visible. And we're going to talk a little bit about that next week in terms of expression, waking up and expressing. But this is a glorious community where we get to do that. And what I also know about this community is that this community is sourced and supplied by pure spirit, that this community is God's community, that we came here, we came into Livermore Valley to be an expression and divine transparency of pure spirit, not to fulfill personal agendas, but to fulfill the agenda of pure spirit to create heaven on earth. And that's what this community is here to do, to be a blessing to the people who come here on Sunday mornings, to come to classes, to deepen and awaken, and we get to be that into the whole Livermore Tri-Valley area. So I'm grateful for every one of you for showing up here and being part of this community and making it alive, awake, and aware, in, through, and as one power, one presence, and one truth, the infinite goodness of God that has no beginning and no ending and is who we are at every single moment of every day. Let's pray. If the practitioners and spiritual leaders would please stand and join me in that consciousness, they have committed themselves to living and knowing this truth. through their time and their energy and the inner work that they have done. So I'm so grateful to be joined by them today as we stand in prayer and sit in prayer. We're all praying together, every one of us. There's only one thing happening here. And so we give thanks to consciously recognize that there is only one thing happening here. It's beyond all our mind, our thoughts. We have all these different thoughts going on, but underneath all of that, in that deep abiding presence, is this infinite and eternal peace that passes all human understanding. It is peaceful because it needs or wants nothing. It already has everything that it ever needs. It is not striving to get because it already has. It already is. It already is the infinite love that pours through in through and as all creation. It already is harmony and creativity and beauty and abundance and opulence. It already is all of these things. And so we allow the layers to fall away. We allow our bloated nothingness to move out of the way and just feel into this divine, infinite, oceanic presence, which we did not create. It created us. And so we let go into it. We trust it with our entire beingness. We let go, and we let go, and we let go. And when everything else is gone, this is still there. This one presence, this one power. It is always who we are. We can never be outside of it. We can never walk away from it. We can never add on to it. We can never take away from it. It is who we are eternally. It is birthless and deathless. And we are birthless and deathless, the truth of who we are. And so we joyfully abide in the truth of who we are, in our infinite, eternal nature. That we are so much bigger than these human personalities. We are beyond the beyond. And even as we show up in this world as unique and powerful expressions of pure spirit, that each of these beautiful, unique expressions have an eternal existence, an infinite existence. That we did not make ourselves unique, we simply are unique, just by being alive and awake as one. And so we celebrate ourselves, we celebrate our family, our friends, this community, our work life, our colleagues, our employers, our clients, this nation, this planet, all sentient life, all animals and plants, every form. This is heaven on earth. We choose to remember not only who we are, but what this earth is. It is heaven. We choose to see the reality and live from that reality, to move away from the limited race consciousness and open to the infinite goodness of God that has no limits. Everyone on this planet is well cared for, and we call forth that caring, that abundance of good for especially those who have no voice, who feel complete separation from the truth and source of who they are. We call forth this infinite goodness of source to reveal itself in all those who are ready to hear and see the truth of who they are. We are here to claim heaven on earth. Globally, cosmically, in our community, and most importantly, in our own hearts, in our own life. We are individual vortexes of pure spirit. So for the consciousness that is alive and awake in this room right here and right now, that is the healing source of all our good, financially, relationships, creative work expression, health, physical, emotional, mental, on every level and dimension of being. We are conscious of remembering who we really are. And that is the healing. That is the gift. That is the prosperity. That is the abundance. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. In deep and abiding peace and everlasting joy, we release this word collectively. We let it be, and we say together, and so it is. Amen.
And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Amen.
and amen.